There was a time when I was faced with so much fear and pressure while waiting on God to deliver what He promised. That pain was literally unbearable. While I was sobbing in bed and crying out to God to show up, He said to me, "There is too much pain. You need to get away." And before I go any deeper, let me break things down a little bit more. We were staying in a downtown apartment in the city, and there was a dead end ahead. There was no more availability for us to stay, and there was no money for us to go. It was so terrifying because all the painful thoughts of what could go wrong. Fear is described in the Bible as torment or punishment, and it totally is. 1 John 4:18 says, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love." I was still learning to trust the true love of God's promise to show up to be our ever-present rescue. And it was really intense walking through such extreme circumstances, and with kids, which makes it I think 10 million times worse. So when God said that there was too much pain, He meant that my thoughts were too fearful because I was focused on the fears of bad outcomes instead of focusing on my promise. Fear tries to bring us into death. It is so deadly to dwell on fear. There is this condition with pigs called savaging, where the mother pig will react out of the intense pain of giving birth and kill her babies. I have read that roughly half of all piglets die after birth from being attacked by their mothers. In the same way, our fears can be our own death because they can cause us to be so consumed by pain that we forget what God has promised. An outcome of being consumed by that pain is we kill God's promises from coming to pass because we put all of our faith and trust in fear instead of faith. Without faith, it's impossible to please God or see the harvest of faith. We'll reap whatever we sow, whether that's fear or faith harvest. And our harvests are very much our thoughts and what we focus on. When God told me to get away, He meant that I needed to take my mind off of my fears and get away into my imagination by faith to feel the comfort and love of my promises from God being done. And that's what I did. I put on some relaxing piano music and I closed my eyes. I imagined that God showed up with a big financial deposit or donation for us to reserve our next stay so that we would have a way to leave. As I entered into that time of intimacy by faith, I had tears rolling down my cheeks of pure gratitude and happiness. I became so swept away by the joy of God's promise being fulfilled that I forgot that it hadn't shown up yet in the natural realm. After my faith-soaking session was over, I watched my phone with expectation to get a donation or deposit to be able to move on. That same night, a few hours later, I received the notification I was looking for. The best part is it happened just as I hoped. I was hoping that God would show up with enough for us to go to a less expensive town to stay, and that is exactly what He did. God's love vow showed up and He honored His words. He took us to stay at the cutest little apartment in a popular college town. It was during the summer, so the rates were less because the students all went home. It was during that stay that my kids found their favorite new bookstore, and we had such an incredible adventure. If you're going through something painful or scary right now and need a miracle, then I invite you to keep listening. I'm going to take you through a little faith soak to help you get away from the pain of the fear and enter into the joy and comfort of your promises from God. One thing that I have learned is so many of God's promises are attached to what we hope. I will often hope for something to come, and then I'll follow that by praying that God will fulfill that hope. And almost always after that, God will give me a promise for exactly what I'm hoping for. And that is like getting a guaranteed prophecy straight from God. So if you don't have a personal promise for your situation, then focus on how you hope things to be. His promise is already enough to cover you with the fulfillment. So here goes. Let's leave the pig pens of worry and isolate the sweet fragrance of our blooming promises from God by bringing our thoughts, focus, and imagination into what God has promised or into our hopes, and no longer in the mud of the fears and worries of the pig pen. The way to overcome a painful situation or a painful outcome or something that you fear happening that is painful to even think about is to use the opposite force of hope, using faith in your hopeful thoughts, your hopeful imagination. And faith is when you start to actually visualize it and feel it. Faith is the vehicle for your hopes, and when it come together, it's a very powerful force. It's stronger than any fear or pain. But the first thing that we must do is we must give God all of the pain, because only He is strong enough to take that from you. So I want you to imagine that you're in a bedroom right now. And Jesus is standing before you, and He's holding a big red garbage can. And He's asking you to start placing everything that is painful to you right now into that garbage can. Give the things that you fear happening, the situation that is so painful to you right now. And take a moment and unload all of those things to Him. And as you are giving it to Him, as you are placing it into that big red trash can, it is no longer yours. It is going from your hands to His. And as you do this, God is taking that from you, and with His power and with His sovereign love and ever-present wisdom, He's taking those things out of your life. Because there's a promise that the opposite of your fear is a promise. And God will replace your pain with a hope-filled outcome, a hope come true. Now that you've placed everything into that red trash can, God is taking it away and leaving the room with all of that pain that you just gave to Him. And the door has closed. Now that you are in this room and you no longer have any of that pain, or any of those fears or any of those troubles. Imagine that the things that you hope for instead of the pain start to happen for you. Imagine your prayers came true. What would that look like to you? How does it feel? Actually feel like it has happened. Those things have happened. And you know that you have successfully entered the place of hopes fulfilled when you were able to feel a deep sigh of relief. That is what a hope fulfilled feels like. It is that deep sigh of relief. The pain is over, and everything that you hoped for has come true. See your promises from God fulfilled. What does your life look like? How does it make you feel to be free from the pain? How happy are you that your hopes, that your promises have come true, and you're finally free? You're no longer waiting. See your life that way. You are not waiting any longer for the relief or the comfort. You have it. You look so happy. Everything you dreamed for has happened. You are free from all the pain. And things are finally just as you dreamed they could be. See the answer to your prayer. How did it show up? How did you feel to be relieved of the burden? Take a moment and think about deep down, what do you hope will happen? Without questioning it, without giving any reason why it couldn't happen, what do you hope will happen deep down? As you use your imagination and your faith to feel like that has happened, It is a powerful way to pray without words. It is more powerful than words because you are going right to the fulfillment and skipping over every other part. Now that you've thought about what you really, truly hope will happen, receive it as though it has happened for you. Imagine that your hope came true. See yourself receiving it. Allow your heart to open and feel the sigh of relief that you have what you hoped for and that the pain is over. You're free from that pain. You are so happy. Tears of joy. You feel so thankful to God that He did this for you. And that you're not in pain anymore. In your mind, in your heart. Because the agony was replaced with your hopes come true. Now that you've reached that place, by faith that your hopes come true, hold it there. And any time you feel or think or encounter the pain of your situation, go back to that place of your hopes come true. And if you cannot get into that place of feeling like it is done, then just keep thanking God that it is until you start to feel it again. Keep going back there until you see the physical arrival, because you will.